Welcome to Price Action Live for Thursday, July 10th. At Traders Pulse, we're doing it, guys. We're trading live on stream. It's been a few days now. We've been seeing Mike and Trevor go at it, and I figured, hey, my jealousy is too high to ignore. Let me see if I can jump on stream with these guys.
That's what it's been, right, Tom? Like, we've been having so much fun that you were like, I'm missing out now. I got to join you guys.
Nothing has shown me how much ego I have than the trading lifestyle. Watching other people succeed only feels good if I'm succeeding as well. I don't know. It's a character defect, and I can't seem to undo it. I've joined a prop firm, Craze now. Mike has infected me with the idea of trying it out. All his interviews on Trading Bot sessions has been fantastic. I mean, the last runs have made it so that
there's a lot of really neat people in this space.
It's just that it runs the gamut. Like the last one with the potential congressman, I was like, okay, now there's no excuse not to try this stuff out. Like everyone is doing this, so it feels so cool.
To be paying his way during the campaign trail by funding his feeding his family with prop firm payouts is pretty incredible for sure. Well, that was a quick gap fill.
Oh, my top step X isn't loading.
So we pretty much picked up where we left off yesterday. Not a huge gap up at all. Little bit of a bearish open here below VWAP. We're going to give it a few minutes and then try to establish an orb before we take any side of this trade. We're definitely not in an area where I would say, oh man, this is totally overbought. So I'm not quite ready to establish direction yet. What about you guys? What are you seeing?
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, here with
yes,
my indicators.
This is what I see. Yes.
I've never traded the short time frame opening NASDAQ. I've never done this at all. So I'm trying to see how my indicators, my long-term indicators, work on a shorter time frame. And right now we're in a yellow zone for the 1 minute, but I don't know how the NASDAQ operates on open. Like on Bitcoin, there's not often some big move that happens at 9:30 because it's 9:30.
Right. Right.
It's not a usual thing.
Yeah. So you got to get used to some of the change in dynamics there. Interesting. The market really wants to sell off here. It's a very bearish open.
I feel like we were on easy mode for a bit, and now we're kind of back to just news driven, tweet driven.
Yeah.
You take your profits, you lock out for the day, and you hope you don't die.
I'm right there with you. I think if you can catch even just 1 or 2 scalps in a session right now, you'd be lucky, because it's just choppy and kind of unpredictable at the moment. It's not trending the way I'm used to. We're still not in a short seller's paradise at the moment. We're still in a very strong uptrend bullish zone for some time now, several weeks. So if there's a short sell opportunity here, which I generally prefer, I might have already missed it.
Jesus, it's passive daily VWAP already.
Exactly.
Well, if it's going to bounce, it's going to be here. If not,
that's what I'm thinking as well, Tom. This initial open here has me thinking we're just in a continuation from yesterday's bullish trend that sort of reversed out right at 10:17 or so Central Time. And then it just continued for the rest of the session, which was an interesting one. If you caught yesterday's session, I had gone long 2 contracts on my automated strategy and basically was in drawdown for most of the second half of the morning session, but then recovered all of those losses by the end of the day. And the strategy exited at the end of the day. Sorry, let me pull up M&Q here. Strategy exited at the end of the day with a $67 loss. So it wasn't a bad day overall. And then I had taken 2 NQ scalps yesterday and made a couple $100 overall. So this feels like an opportunity to watch price come back and retest VWAP, and then maybe I short from there depending on whether we close successfully below VWAP. It's an interesting opening range though.
Why did I have to start on an interesting day?
Right? It's a big candle right there. Take a look at the 15-minute chart. It's I mean, that's almost as big as that first bearish candle before the big sell-off yesterday.
Don't like hearing that. Don't like hearing that at all.
Which just shows that I think the market has decided that our new resistance zone is where I have my marker here, which is roughly at 23,107, 23,100-ish. And that confirms with the previous rejection point that we had hit back on July 3rd. Okay, as we both anticipated, Tom, it looks like we're seeing a little bit of a bounce. I'm going to get some of my lines ready to go. I'm basically going to do this 2 different ways. I'll start to build a short position off of these smaller lines here, and that'll be 1 MNQ contract at a time. If this does indeed look like a good short, and I'll start to prepare my exit for that position as well. Simultaneously, if I see a good short-term area to enter where it feels like it's going to keep pulling back for at least 10 points, then I'll throw in an NQ scalp in there as well.
Hmm.
Hey, Aventura, thanks for joining us, man. Good to see you.
The whole gang. Peter messaged me yesterday. He's like, "Hey, should I trade prop firm too?"
Can we get Peter on this stream? That's fantastic.
That's crazy. Just 2 of us always go long, 2 of us always go short, and then there's always gonna be someone who's happy.
That feels like a quick way for the prop firms to find us colluding with one another.
Right. I just couldn't believe he asked, because Peter never asked to trade.
Well, he's going to spend enough time with us that it's going to be impossible for him not to want to start the process.
Well, so he has to watch the content multiple times. So he gets indoctrinated in the ways of trading, and he goes, "Okay, I just feel like this. I got to try this out."
Yep. That sounds right. Yeah, we agree. We're gonna rope Peter in and have him join the cult. We'll have Peter start trading prop firms as well.
Peter has no. I don't know if he has any stomach to lose.
All right, I'm gonna put this here. We'll go ahead and take a quick scalp below the opening range here because it feels like it's trying to break down. Yeah. And I'm going to take that one for a quick ride for 10 points. Simultaneously, I'm going to set up the beginning of a small short position right above this little cluster of candles, but right below VWAP. And if I'm wrong about that and it starts to post above VWAP, then I'll close out that position for a very tiny loss. But it's bearish enough of an open for me to feel like we're just going to come right back up here and reject off of VWAP.
Right. My indicators are saying...
Are they saying bullish. The opposite? Bullish? I mean, everything is still bullish. I'm with you.
But that I should be bullish if we get to... I should go long if we get to 22,989.
989? Okay. Yeah. That's actually a great spot for me. I'd still love to take the trade from where I want to enter to that spot. So that could be a good exit spot for me.
Okay, so you would short from VWAP over here down to 2289.
Yeah, and mainly because even a move to that point is still 53 points. That's a decent move.
I find it so hard to short, to go against the long-term trend. I guess I don't have the stomach for it, but because I always want to be able to stay in my trade if I'm right, and then just leave it and just never have to think about it again until the trend changes.
I normally try to do that, but it's been so choppy lately that I'll take whatever small swing I can get until we start to get to a point where we are trending for more of the session, instead of, like, just a perfect example is three sessions ago. All this choppy action here is really difficult to trend follow in a single day. This was just sideways chop all day long. Yesterday was an interesting trend. This was a really good spot to pick up more than 50 points. You know, if you could have carried this trade for 130 points and then reversed out and taken the long from support for another 150 or 160 points. So today, if we're going to see any kind of like major pullback, I'll probably hold my position a little bit longer. I just want to see how the market responds to 22,989. And I think you're seeing that as the support zone that posted overnight. When you're looking at 22,989, is that from electronic hours?
Electronic hours, yes.
Yeah. So there's also two different ways to look at the market as well. You can pull in just the intraday data or the regular trading hours, and that's going to give you probably slightly different data on your indicators than if you were looking at the electronic hours.
Okay, so if I'm looking at the regular hours, support is at 2,300.
2,300. Okay, so we got a little bit more room on the electronic hours data.
What do you think is more reliable then for this sort of thing?
In my mind, all the liquidity shows up in regular trading hours, so I try to rely on those indicators as much as possible.
Interesting.
Electronic hours are, I mean, you'll see it right on the chart. It's much more thinly traded. There's not a lot of data there. Some people ignore the overnight session entirely because it's just noise.
So like over here, if I take a look at my chart and let's say I'm on the 15-minute. And so right now this is with the electronic hours, and I could see where my levels are hitting.
Okay.
It's where I would expect them to hit. If I switch this to regular, they also follow. So I never know like which one is the thing to go with. Or maybe they respond to both. Oh, that's what you were saying before the show. There's always confluence somewhere.
Yeah.
So maybe it's both. I wonder if I could make my indicators show both information.
I guess my other viewpoint on this is like, also, what happens if you just turn everything off? You know, if we just ignore all of this data and we just focus on price action, what is the market telling us from the open?
That's like snorkeling without a snorkel. That's rough.
Hold your breath, baby. Dive deeper. What it's telling me, at least, is that we tried to break out to the upside, but there were three clearly very bearish candles on the 1-minute chart. And we found some support here at 23,025. And if it breaks below that further, then I think the trend continues to the downside. Peter says soon. I'm going to infer that to mean that he's going to be trading prop firms soon. That's what I want to hear.
And he asked me twice. I usually ignore the first time he asked me anything. But he asked me twice. I was like, oh, I guess he wants it.
I love the brotherly banter. It's honestly the best.
We're so used to being aggressive with each other because we like to pretend that we hate each other. It's our joke. That but it turns on immediately whenever I'm thinking about Peter or we're around. We do it, and sometimes it bleeds off onto my wife. My wife would be like, why are you so mean to me all of a sudden? Did you just talk to Peter? Oh yeah, I just talked to Peter. Right.
Puts you in a whole mood.
Well, I'm happy. I'm like ribbing him, and but then I do that to everybody. And I realize that not everyone's had decades worth of pounding on each other emotionally in order to not feeling anymore.
I think I'm going to open a small short on gold. It's looking like it's going to start breaking down here.
It's such a different feeling trading this at 6 p.m. when the futures open than in the opening. It feels more tense now. Not just because of the cinematic music, just the movement seems more like it's trying to decide something, whereas at 6 o'clock it doesn't feel like it's trying to decide anything.
Okay, so I'm in a small scalp on NQ right now. I'm also short gold, and we're waiting to see if I can get this NQ scalp to run for 10 points, which would be a $200 profit real quick.
All right, I'm short too. I went short.
We'll keep an eye on gold for a bit. This is a very small position. I'm in 1 micro here on gold. And it's looking pretty bearish from here. It looks like it hit the other side of this linear trend on the 2 hour. If I post from the bottom.
Damn, I got break even. Trevor's been around for a while. Trevor, when did you start with Twitter Spells? Oh, he's muted.
You can unmute, Trev. Oof. Come on, give me a little bit more.
So how do you deal with break even here, Mike?
I don't. With these scalping trades, I let them ride until they've executed. So either my stop loss hits or my take profit hits.
Okay.
And it looks like that was a little bit of a potential false breakdown, but I have enough room for this to roll. So right now my stop is at roughly 20 points, which is the top of this candle range. So if there is going to be a continuation of this downtrend, I likely won't get stopped out. But if it does reverse out and try to post above VWAP, I'll get stopped out, for a $400 loss. But this is looking pretty good. Normally, I think this area here is where I would have tried to start my short, and I was too busy thinking about the NQ scalp to do this at the same time.
Right.
So I'm going to see if it comes back up a little bit here, I might start my longer term short.
For me, the short on MNQ seems to be like a good area here, because now we've consolidated below VWAP, and then we've had multiple candle wicks hit that area, and so this downtrend is confirmed. Oh, look at that, it's falling already,
and we're about to hit profit.
Hello, I'm back.
He's back. Sorry,
Aventura Trader. I joined the team back in February, doing like strictly social media, and then I've been on customer experience since May. But I started out as a customer. That's how I met this wild crew back in May of 2024.
Okay, so I picked up $366 on that scalp, and I'm still short on gold. Honestly, for me, that's a good day right off the bat. That's enough for me to say, I'm done, and then I'm out for the day. But this is looking pretty good. We might be able to continue to build a position here, because we're starting to break some support levels here. We said 989 was our next target for support, right, Tom?
Yeah, so for me on micros, right around here is where I guess I should close my position. Because no, you know what? I'm just gonna move my break even.
Okay. Yeah, let's see how the market responds to 989 then. Gold's not going anywhere yet.
Tom, what you were saying about 9:30 feeling different than the overnight session, or just in general about like having something to prove, or that's why I hate. Like if I can make my money overnight, even though a lot of the times I'll get punished for doing stuff and having to stay up all night to watch it, it's just different. I just feel like you're kind of like flowing with whatever's happening, and then 9:30 is this like, like what are we doing? Big decision moment, and it's super stressful. Right. I would rather just like do it overnight and then just walk away and not worry about what happens at 9:30.
All right, here since we touched my level, I've closed my short and now I'm long.
Okay.
I don't like it from here. I would have preferred it on the daily at 22,819, but I just don't necessarily think we get there because we already bounced off of there on the 8th. So
gotcha.
Since we already did that, there's no confirmation. We could go lower to 22,933, but I love following for some reason, I don't know if you guys see the same thing. The 2 hour for me has always given me the most reliable levels.
That's my favorite time frame for doing support and resistance is the 2 hour chart. I feel like especially, and that's on electronic hours, by the way. So I'm incorporating all the overnight data as well as the session data, but the 2 hour chart is fantastic for building the linear trend from, and also determining support and resistance levels. They've just been spot on over and over and over again.
Right. Okay.
I don't tend to use support and resistance on the shorter time frames. It's just noise at that level. So you get a lot more information from the higher time frames. But talk about good information there, Tom. I'm pretty sure you absolutely wicked that 989. The low was 988 on that candle.
Right. Yeah. This is. I mean, that's why I love my indicators.
Which indicator is that you were determining the support on? This is your custom one, right?
Yeah, so it's you can go with two, but the anchor's trend is what does these colored backgrounds.
Got it.
What I love about this type of indicator is that it not only gives you the trend, but also the levels that it should be support or resistance at.
Got it.
Which it was driving me crazy guessing on that every single time I was trading before. It's not obviously nothing's 100%, but
no,
it works real well for me.
Interesting. It's trying to come back and retest this again.
That's right. Well, it's how long do we have left for this? Yeah, we have 7 minutes before the 2 hour candle closes. So if it closes on the lows, then chances are we're going further down.
Got it. Okay, so I'm holding my 1 micro gold short, and I've opened a new M&Q short. Hello, that is the price action I'm looking for.
It's un-American, Mike.
I am not betting.
Shouldn't be happy with that. You
for
are
the 5 minutes.
You're betting. You're betting against my parents' 401k
right now. Come on, man.
Someone's got to lose. So if it's your parents, well, that's just how it goes.
That is one of the interesting things about trading in general. I remember, one of my favorite movies when I was a teenager was Wall Street for obvious reasons. And there's 2 scenes in that movie that have always stood out to me. One of them was the moment that he tours an apartment in New York, gets a lay of the land, gets the view that he's hoping for, and he says he'll take it. I always had a dream to have the same kind of situation here, where I could walk into a place and just say, I'll take it. That's always been a desire of mine. But the second is the scene where he's talking to his dad, and his dad, of course, runs the metallurgic company or whatever he builds. I can't remember the parts they build, something for planes, if I recall. And
I got a connection at the airport.
And he keeps telling Bud Fox, you know, you don't do anything. You're not making anything. You're just pushing buttons on a keyboard. And I remember thinking, oh yeah, I guess we're not really producing anything until much later, by the way. Like, you can make the argument that I'm betting against your parents' 401k. But I'm providing liquidity to the buy side.
Right.
All right.
Exactly.
So
absolutely,
that's my job as a trader, is providing liquidity. That's what we do in the markets. That's our function and role.
Once I understood that, then I understood that it is actually, in fact, there are no markets where liquidity is not the most important thing.
For sure.
What kind of liquidity are you providing when you're trading prop? Is this monopoly liquidity?
No. Yes. Remember, I also have a live futures account that runs in tandem here.
Nice.
Well, then we're not taking Nona and Papa's 401k then.
That's true. So yeah, we're not doing anything then. No, actually, the way to think about this for prop is that our signals are being traded by the prop firms. In many cases, they are scaling the size of your good signals with their own firm capital. So in theory, it is my signals are a proxy to a different account providing liquidity to the markets.
Okay, so we're the AI behind the prop firm trades. We're the monkeys in the back typing away, and then they take the trade when Shakespeare has been written.
So like right now, Mike, you said that you don't look at the overnight session, but I would be going, all right, we're at the low from the overnight.
From the overnight, yep.
So you have no concept of what happened overnight coming into the day.
I do. If you look at my daily chart here, the one concept I use is a script that Tom actually wrote for me, which is the electronic hours VWAP. And that is another area where I pay attention to the overnight session. That said, support and resistance shows up on the regular trading hours more often than not. So I'd be more interested in where price arrives at 22,939 because it's already broken the support from the overnight now.
Yeah.
So this is the interesting thing from my indicator here, that if the top is not the resistance or the support, then the other end becomes it. And I should actually thought about this because Bitcoin still has a bunch of downside left. And if we're correlated with the NQ, then NQ can get down to the low end of this channel, which is 2290. But we'll see. I always tell myself I'm in a wick.
You're probably in a wick, yeah. On the like the weekly time frame?
On the 2 hour, also 2 hour.
On the 2 hour. Yeah. That's a good way to think about it. Okay, it looks like gold has filled the gap here. I'm probably going to get ready to close out my gold position. See how much further it goes. But I'm now up 55 bucks on gold, $68 on M&Q. And that doesn't include my scalp from earlier, which, by the way, this is another nice feature of Traders Post. I have 2 different sized accounts that I have connected. Of course, there's 27 prop accounts connected to my account right now. But one of those is a $150,000 account. And that account, I actually trade 2 NQ contracts at a time rather than 1. So on that particular account, my Tradeify 150 account, I was able to pick up $700 in profit.
I see. Oh, awesome.
Wow, this is an excellent short. Look at that. All right, so we're now touching the weekly VWAP for NQ.
Right.
It's the same story on gold. It's so interesting to me how gold is supposed to be inversely correlated to the stock market, but then so often will ride in tandem.
Why do you think it's inversely correlated to the stock market?
I mean, generally on longer time frames, gold should be a store of value, a flight to safety, if you will, if there's enough of a pullback. But even intraday, more often than not, it's typically inversely correlated if you use the correlation coefficient. But right now, it's starting to gain positive correlation. It's at 0.07 right now, but gaining. Here, I'll show you the chart. During the overnight session, it was actually almost 0.8 positively correlated, and then it fell down to uncorrelated. But typically, if you look at sessions over and over again, it tends to range in this zone of negatively correlated rather than positive.
But is it enough and consistent enough that you can do long short? Like, hey, if I'm long one, I could be short the other?
Not that I found. It's tough to actually like track that relationship. I could probably build a model for it and look for areas where you might be able to predict the relationship between the two and build something more algorithmic. But that would be the only way that I would feel comfortable doing it, is using statistics in order to determine the likelihood that there's an inverse relationship between the two and putting on a trade that way. I don't know if I could do it instinctually. That would be really tough for me.
Looking into gold, because gold was the thing I used to pay the most attention to. Mm-hmm. The relationship is between bonds and dollar.
Sure.
And if you, there's something there that if you, when the dollar moves in a positive correlation with gold, it means there's one sort of regime that's happening. And if it moves opposite that, then something else is happening. And the same thing with the dollar, or with bonds, because the dollar is just a bond with infinite maturity and no interest rate. And so those two relationships, what I found was it was more useful to use that to figure out what general regime, liquidity regime I was in for long-term trades than any short-term move whatsoever. But, you know, I don't trade short-term gold, so maybe I don't know.
Got it. And I think that's the tough part, is like, generally speaking, your description is true. It gets tougher when you start trying to trade intraday, because there's just so much more noise on the shorter time frames and within a single session, that a lot of those conventions and heuristics that we tend to use don't really show up in a way that makes them reliable. If they do show up, it's just harder to capture that signal without using a lot more quantitative data.
This is why long-term trading is easier than short-term.
For sure. The odds are against us on the short-term side, but if you can manage risk then and catch a wave like we did this morning, then there's money to be made. So I'm out of everything now. I've gone ahead and taken profits on all of my positions. On my Tradeify 150 account, I'm up $1,220 on the day, and on the rest of my 100K accounts, I'm up $613.
Awesome.
Not a bad day.
Everywhere.
And now I'm seeing the bounce right off of, it was the weekly VWAP I was paying attention to on gold, and it was the anchored VWAP I was paying attention to on NQ. So if we go back to the 2-hour chart, I had posted 2 anchored VWAPs, one from the recent support pivot zone, and then one from the recent high for the resistance side. And we just bounced off of that support anchored VWAP. So that was my take profit spot.
I have to modify my script so that it can, because I anchored to times and not to pivots.
Yeah,
I got to change it.
Actually, I've been wanting to talk to you about that, because there's a couple of scripts that I want to put together that use a combination of anchored VWAPs on pivots and linear regression on pivots. And it's that regression trend that is most important to me, especially if for spotting reversals. So like right now, you know, the question is this a reversal from this opening downtrend, which is a very, very strong regression trend, a Pearson R score of 0.94, obviously very, very strong. And it has a high likelihood of continuing from here too. But I'm going to take my profits. I've done really well this morning, so there's no reason to continue. If it starts to build a new direction from here, it would be from this pivot point, this low candle, and we would start to see an uptrend form inside of this downtrend. Right. And the way to measure that is to basically say, inside of this sequence, what's the lowest low? Now let's start measuring the candles from that point and start to see if an uptrend starts to form. If it doesn't and we continue to a new low, then that's been rejected, and we continue to watch to see how much further we go. But that's how I spot reversals, is just trying to measure the uptrend versus the downtrend, or the downtrend versus the uptrend. Cool. Good trading day. I pulled myself out of the hole on a few accounts here, and I'm up on several accounts now overall. Let me do some math and see where my progress is.
Way to go.
So that 150K account is actually a fresh account, and that puts me at about 14% of the way to goal. Most of the accounts, though, I'm at roughly 20% of the way to goal. Okay, I think this is where I call it quits. I'm up on the day. Do you guys have anything you want to showcase on your side?
No, I'm a couple of things I just want to point out here is the idea for Bitcoin, for those people who trade Bitcoin. Just gonna mention it here. It looks like I was hoping for a pullback down to the 109 level, but just as a reminder, I also have to remind myself that corrections can happen in price as well as in time. So if we actually finish tonight, 8 p.m., and we haven't got down to 109.7, then I think we're prepared for the next move up in Bitcoin. We'll see. But I'm actually, the bullishness that's happening now on Bitcoin is so strong after this breakout. We have this breakout that's happening. So here, that any correction down here and then move up, I think, is printing money. So I'm very, very excited for this move to happen.
Really curious, Tom, your thoughts on Ethereum here as well. I know we spoke about Ethereum some weeks back on our after hours show, and since that point, it was basically like that was the low, and it's posted almost a 90% return since then. Do you see Ethereum trying to catch up with Bitcoin at this point in terms of price action?
Well, I think all the altcoins will, but I don't like the narrative on Ethereum. The Ethereum narrative is about institutional adoptions and building these systems on there, and I just don't see that ever happening. What's great with even the chart, when you take a look at it logarithmically, it's sideways. Like, it's just a sideways chart.
Yeah, fair.
So even if it got all the way up to all-time highs, I'd still be like, well, I'm not particularly excited about it.
When would be the breakout zone you'd be excited about?
Well, it would have to break the all-time high 49.45 and then confirm. But when I compare that to literally anything, like Doge, this is, I mean, how do you not buy this here? Like, this to me is such a great long. Even Solana, which I hate, has a better chart, because I think Solana is, like, VC backed and not as good technology, but whatever. But even this is a better setup, because you have this flag pattern, so you can get a nice breakout there. But then you have Sui. This is a better chart. I mean, this is just an uptrend. This is an uptrend chart, and of course Cardano. So I think Cardano, we get another leg up and then plateau and up, plateau, very much like in Doge. So I just don't see the case for Ethereum. That's exciting.
I have the same feeling about Ripple, and I recognize a lot of the news and excitement around Ripple's progress towards an IPO, and obviously that gave a huge bump to its overall price. But you really got to look at XRP over the very long run. I bought XRP in 2018, 2017. I actually can't remember which year it was. Anyway, I bought it at 19 cents. And it was one of my best trades ever, because the Korean markets caught wind of it, and they launched the price to somewhere between $2.50 and $3. And that was the last time we saw a price that high, was back in 2017 or 2018. I don't know if you have the all-time chart for XRP. I think it would have been on, gosh, this was back in the day when it was on a much older exchange. I think it was on Bitfinex for a little while. And so you might have price history there. Yeah, there it is right there. So that trade is from 19 cents to 3 something. And then it basically fell into a winter forever and would just never trend from there. This is the first time we've come back and met the resistance from that old trade of mine. And I don't know if it continues from here. But one thing I can say about crypto that I'm really starting to understand more and more is that if you come from TradFi, you would normally look at price action from a valuation perspective. You know, my background is in corporate finance and valuation and traditional discounted cash flow analysis and dividend discounting models and that kind of thing, right? We're looking for how cash flow is worth more in the future. And that's how we price out equities over the long run. You can't really do that for crypto. There's no cash generated by it. It's not even considered an asset because of that. It's more, you know, you might make the argument that it's a store of value, so on and so forth. But in crypto, I think there's a new model we need to start considering, and that is the crowd belief model or the belief valuation model. And it's basically what you just said earlier about Ethereum. You're not a fan of the story there, the narrative there. And I don't know if there's a perfect way to measure that quantitatively, the same way that we would want to measure the fundamentals of a company. But the crowd belief, I think, can be measured by looking at sentiment overall, not just within Twitter, but like what's happening in the DEXs, what's happening on the blockchain as well. There's a way to, I think, start to measure the vote that takes place within a project over the long run. So I've been looking for new ways to kind of think about crypto from that perspective, what I'll call like the belief valuation model. And it seems like XRP is an example of where that belief starts to pick up momentum.
All right, so you're absolutely correct. It's basically volume but expanded, right? We're used to think about volume as a confirmation signal on a stock chart, but it's true in anything that's happening there. Plus, you have the effect of and I'm going to butcher this a bit, but the Nassim Taleb intransigent minority. So if there's a minority within a group, an asset, and they cannot be shaken, just like the Bitcoin maxis, then there's a Lindy effect where their time may come. But I would add something else. The stablecoin narrative is so important that I think we underplay it. And XRP has that tie towards Tether. And I didn't realize this, but I just found out the other day, I think from Charles Hoskinson's interview, he was saying that the stablecoin, the way that they stay stable is that they buy U.S. treasuries. And they are now becoming one of the largest purchasers of U.S. treasuries, right? More than the primary dealers for the banks.
More than Warren Buffett, more than the federal government itself. Yeah. Interesting.
Well, as a because the Fed obviously buys
some treasuries, yes.
But they force it through the primary dealers. But the idea that the stablecoin market is, I think it might even be bigger than the primary dealer market, makes it so that the U.S. government goes, wait a second, we need buyers of treasuries. And if these guys are going to do it, they don't care. The U.S. government doesn't care who's buying the bonds. They just want them to be purchased. Sure. And so there's a narrative flow, this jump that we saw in XRP after the tweet for XRP being added to the strategic reserve and the court cases being dropped against XRP and all that. Now the case of that the government wants this to succeed because they need a buyer for treasuries is really there. So they're counted in the volume as well. So look, to me, it's all interesting. But after all that, Ethereum, to me, is not in this conversation in the same way. It's like vestigial.
It doesn't. Yeah, it's vestigial. Interesting. And I feel like that happened even in the early days with crypto. 2014, 2015, there were a bunch of projects like that like felt like they were gaining a lot of belief and momentum. There wasn't even I think the crypto following back then was very different than it is today. There's no question. But if you go back to like the Wayback Machine and pull up CoinMarketCap from 2014, you'll see a bunch of projects there that don't even exist anymore. And at the time, those were the largest by market cap. They had the biggest belief. So the one part of this model that I'm most interested in is the survivorship aspect of it. What causes a project to survive longer than other projects at the moment? and continue to sustain that belief in the project. Ethereum is an interesting one because it's sustained belief amongst all the other projects from a market cap perspective. But so has Dogecoin at the same time. And when you compare the two, it's like, well, one has very clear utility. The other one is a meme coin. So how do we build upon this model?
Well, there's all kinds of things we could say for that, but we can't discount the meme aspect.
There's a meme factor. GameStop is a perfect example. Absolutely.
Exactly. So we'll see. Companies are going to start holding Doge as a
treasury holding,
and the conversation will change.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens there. All right, guys, let's wrap it up for this session. I am down for the session, but I'm up in friendship. So I like that.
That's sweet of you, Tom. So you took that long at 989 then, and then did you pull the plug on it?
No, because I haven't broken down below. If you take a look at the wick that's happening here, remember I was saying I think I'm in a wick. And it looks like that might be the case. So we'll see. And I'm overall long, so I see no real reason not to just keep holding on to this long until 4 o'clock tonight. Okay,
sounds good. Good luck with the rest. Trevor, did you take anything today?
No, I did overnight stuff and almost died, and then made on the 2 accounts that I have, I made $200 and $400. I have 2 more days until payout. I'm just trying to be like $200, get the payout, and then after the first payout, then it's just like it's you're home free. You paid for it, got some money in your pocket. It's tough to not think that you need to like go crazy. Because the 50% thing I think messes with you. Like, well, I need it to be double what I would normally do in order to make it like an appropriate payout. But if you can just get the first one, then I told you with Top Step that the 5-day thing. When you take your payout on the 5th day, you're still inside the 5th day. So that's been a huge change from the new dashboard. Is that just get to that first, even if it's like $1,000, get to that first payout, then you can still trade day 5 when you're done. And you'll end up entering day 6 with $1,500 or something if you had 2,000 going into day 5.
Yeah,
that's a great point. Okay,
yeah. Interesting. Okay, cool.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, we'll try it again next week. I think we're trying this Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. So we'll see you guys on July 15th, and we'll give it another shot. We'll see how markets are responding to our trades, whether they're going to take it away from us or give us more.
And bye, Ventura. Bye, Peter.
Take care, guys.